This is Time Out with Planet Shapers. We share big ideas, inspirational insights, and practical knowledge to sustainably transform the commercial, residential, and public sector built environment.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Time Out with Planet Shapers. Today we are chatting to Grahame Cruickshanks, the Managing Executive, Market Engagement at Green Building Council South Africa. GBCSA has recently initiated development of existing homes rating tool, and Grahame is here to tell us more about this. Hi Grahame, how are you?
Hi Catherine, I'm well this morning, thank you.
Good. So Grahame, tell us, what was the starting point for the development of a rating tool for existing homes in South Africa?
Something that we've realized is that there's an enormous number of homes in South Africa that have missed the boat essentially for resource efficiency, for energy efficiency, for water efficiency, waste efficiency, and also for better quality environments in which people can live. What we've understood is that this market demands a simple rating tool which allows people to embark on a green building journey that is personal to them. That can include a simple benchmarking system so that they can understand how green their home is relative to others. It needs to provide access to educational resources, and it also needs to be incentivized. There's no reason for a person to necessarily embark on a green building journey without knowing that there's going to be a return on that investment. And ultimately, some of those people are going to want some sort of verification, some sort of independent certification to show others, that potentially others, that they have in fact got a green home that is legitimately greened.
Did you establish any of the market demands before starting the process?
We certainly did. From sitting inside the Green Building Council, we automatically assume that a green home is a good idea. But we needed to understand what homeowners in South Africa understood a green home to be. And that took us on a journey to RDP homes in Cato Manor, as well as very high-end homes in Constantia in Cape Town. And the way that we were able to understand those market demands was through in-person surveys as well as workshops which included stakeholders from the property sector. And the outcomes from that were some predictable in some cases, and in other cases quite surprising. So measuring performance of a home is the best way to go about doing this, and that was one thing that we expected. Something we didn't expect necessarily was that health and the quality of things like air and light in a home were very important to a lot of homeowners. Quite often they struggle to articulate that, but once we dived into the detail, we started to understand that those were important criteria. Certification and a personalized journey I've already mentioned, those came through quite strongly. The incentive component was quite interesting. A lot of people understand that it costs them money to live in a home, and that is sometimes linked to some of the activities that take place in the home. An electricity bill is often not necessarily linked to the behavior of people in a home. So incentivizing the correct behavior becomes a really interesting area to explore, which was raised through the market assessment that we did.
What criteria does the rating tool use to evaluate a home?
So we went right back to the Sustainable Development Goals utilized by governments and companies around the world to try and establish a framework against which we could build the right criteria for green home measurement. And we essentially came out with three categories: utilities, health, and community. These differ quite substantially from the way that green building rating tools typically measure green buildings. These are less obviously technical criteria. Utilities is the easy place to start because that's known territory to us. And that involves energy efficiency, energy security, the same for water, and also links to recycling. But health benefits linked to green buildings are not just about the air quality and light quality that I've already mentioned. It's also about how accessible fresh food might be from a home. Is it possible to grow food from where a person lives? If not, how accessible is fresh food from that location? Because that has a direct impact on a person's health and wellness living in a home. And then lastly, community came through very strongly in our market assessment as a desire and a need and a benefit linked to homes. And that takes on a number of different shapes. It could be how walkable a community is. I'm not sure when you last tried to push a pram along the pavement near where you live, but it can be very difficult. It can be very difficult to cross a road, especially if you're not alone. Access to transport. The first and last mile of accessing a transport network are often the most difficult. Those are linked to where you live and your home. Access to the outdoors, natural environments. Those can be very significant impacts on a person's health and well-being, again linked to where they live. So utilities, health and community became our 3 criteria against which we measure homes.
Commercial green building certification is typically expensive and technically complex. How have you tackled this in the case with residential markets?
You're quite right about the nature of green building certification. In fact, when I tackled my first green building certification many years ago, I was completely overwhelmed by the complexity. And that comes about as a result of the nature of the buildings that are typically certified using those systems. They're usually quite flashy and expensive office buildings or shopping centers or sophisticated industrial buildings. So the nature of green building certification has tended to be closely aligned with those types of buildings. But we realized we needed something very different for the residential sector in South Africa. The homes that people live in South Africa are typically quite simple. And also we didn't want to introduce unnecessary cost. So the way that we structured this system is that the householder, as we've called them, so they could be a homeowner, a tenant, they play a big role in this process, and they essentially self-assess their home and then implement a range of different measures to improve the performance of their home. There's a simple questionnaire that a person can complete in just a few minutes while they're sitting on the couch at home, and then there's a benchmarking exercise which comes out of that, which very quickly tells a person how their home is performing against those criteria that we've spoken about, utilities, community, health, etc. The next step is to start investing in the home. And there's a learning process linked to that. So the person who's using the system, which is most likely to be app-based, will be able to learn about how to systematically go through the process of greening their home and also access a directory of products and services that they can then use to apply to their specific home and the specific green building journey that they've chosen. What we would really like to see is partnerships between Green Building Council and business to offer an incentive and reward program as well. That will link to retailers in the residential home builder and home improvement sector, and it hopefully will also link to the financial services sector, so that a person who has been through this process should be able to access a green financial product such as a green mortgage, which links to the next step, which would require the formal certification. Not every homeowner is going to want to make that next step, but if they want to access some of the benefits, they'll need to do so. And it will also add value in the secondary market when they choose to sell their home. And that will involve an external person essentially conducting some sort of assessment or audit on the property to ensure that all the things that the homeowner put into the app to say that they had done have in fact been done and are in fact adding the benefits that were anticipated, so that they can then qualify for that certification. So the way I've described it sounds quite lengthy, but it's actually intended to be fun, it's intended to be engaging, and it is intended to offer a reward from the point of view of the performance of the home, as well as from the point of view of accessing financial benefits, as well as from a personal value system and their ability to improve the lives of themselves and the other people that live in that home.
Affecting change.
Indeed.
What does the green home of the future look like?
So the green home of the future is subject to a lot of debate at the moment. Some people think that it's a space-age bubble floating on a nice serene pond. Some people think that the home of the future is more like the homes we saw in Blade Runner, where there's chaos at ground level and the only way to escape it is to elevate yourself above that. The reality of the home of 2030 is it's probably not that different from the homes we live in now and the home of the future, but it's probably an improvement on what we currently experience. So let's be realistic. A 20% more efficient home in energy efficiency would have a significant benefit to the natural environment, to our socioeconomic conditions, and to a homeowner. Appliances that we put into our homes are likely to be a lot more efficient. We're already seeing energy performance certificates on appliances. That's something that a homeowner should be rewarded for undertaking. renewable energy is likely to become a more common sight on homes. If you drive around affluent suburbs in our major cities in South Africa, you're starting to see solar PV installations on people's roofs. That should be commonplace. It should not just be the privilege of the wealthy. The same applies to water and to waste and the efficiencies we can see achieved there. The Cape Town Day Zero crisis prompted people to dramatically reduce their water consumption. Why is that not common practice? We live in a water-stressed environment. The home of the future will take cognizance of that and reward people for reducing their water consumption, not just when there's a crisis on the go. The health benefits need to be integrated here as well, and a home that is warm and comfortable is in fact a much healthier home to be in. In South Africa, for many years, we designed homes on the basis that we could just pump lots of electrical heating into them to keep them warm in the winter in our colder areas in the interior of the country. That is simply not going to be a part of the home of the future. The home of the future will have walls, floors and roofs that are designed to reduce the heat losses through the building in winter and the heat gains in summer, so that it is in fact warm and comfortable, and that then leads to a healthier environment. However, you don't want that home to be stuffy because you've got the windows and doors tightly closed to keep the heat in, so the right air quality in those environments will be designed in as well. It needs to be an environment with good lighting, so that you A, don't strain your eyes, and B, don't have to run electric lights all the time. The home of the future will allow people to walk from their home to somewhere useful, whether that is to access fresh food, or to get a child to nursery school, or to get to some sort of healthcare facility, or simply to go somewhere that is really pleasant to be outdoors. Our cities are broken. They were designed along the principles of modernist planning, which was car-based, as well as apartheid spatial differentiation. And so the ability to move around in a neighborhood is severely restricted by our planning, our historical planning in our cities. And the home of the future positions itself and is part of a much more integrated infrastructure.
So when will this rating tool be available to homeowners in South Africa?
As soon as we possibly can. However, we are still in the first phase of development. The next phase of development is going to be the actual development of the rating tool, and we're hoping that will be complete by the end of this year.
Okay. And then how's it going to market? Where do people find out about this?
So you can go to GBCSA's website to find out what we're doing at the moment in the green building space. But at the moment, I would suggest that if homeowners are interested in starting a green building journey, that they'll have a look at a separate initiative that we've driven, which is the Smart Home campaign, and that can be accessed at www.smarthome.org.za. It provides really useful information about how to initiate a green building journey.
And how to save.
Absolutely. Vital part of the whole process.
Thank you very much, Grahame. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
This was Time Out with Planet Shapers. Make sure you visit the Green Building Council South Africa website to find out more about membership, training and events. The GBCSA works with our membership community to champion a collective cause to accelerate the development and adoption of best green building practices so that all buildings are designed, built and operated in an environmentally sustainable way.